Welcome to my basement. Sorry for the mess. The basement is in full construction mode, has been for quite some time. We'll get there eventually. So here's what I've come up with. I bought the single wall black pipe stove chimney. It's the same thing as the HVAC stuff except thicker gauge. I'm not sure if the black color has anything to do with it or it's more aesthetically pleasing. I do have a rain cap on it so that I did buy the weather cap so that any embers doesn't fly out and water doesn't get in there, snow doesn't get in there, or animals don't get in there. When I first moved in, the wood stove in the garage unfortunately had 2 dead birds in it because the chimney was not capped. So I'm guessing at some point the birds fell in the chimney and they were never able to get back out. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So cap, pipe, copper. This is the end that will be nearest to the pan, so I'm hoping that the sap will flow down. I will control the flow at the bottom so it drips just enough that it compensates for evaporation, and I'm hoping to keep the copper pipe filled with sap so that the heat from the chimney will transfer to the copper that will transfer to the sap, and then at the top I'll have a 5-gallon bucket filled with sap, and that will be my reservoir. This will be my heat transfer medium, and this will be my rate control flow. It's just a simple push to connect connection, and then there'll be something similar at the other end. I have a leftover from the hot water heater that has a push to connect and a regular garden hose adapter, so I can connect it to something similar that I will put in the 5-gallon bucket, so I can have an on-off switch for the maple sap reservoir. Now the goal is I'm going to thread the stovepipe through the 2x4s to try and keep the shape as I'm trying to bend this soft copper. They call it soft copper, but I have a feeling I'm in for a bit of a workout, and hopefully we can thread it on. I'll see how it holds. I do have some leftover stainless steel rod, so if I have to, I can use a long drill bit. I'll punch through both sides. I'll make the holes big enough so I have my threaded bolt, and then just pass it through so that the copper can rest on it and not right up and down, and then we'll go from there. This is 1/2 inch, 50 feet. We'll see how it goes, we'll see how it works. This was not cheap, not crazy expensive, but not cheap, so I didn't want to go any longer, and I want to make sure that the pros outweigh the cons, and if I'm mistaken, I don't want to be down the hole too much money. Alright, nice and early in the morning. I'm just looking outside the window. There's another snowstorm again outside. I swear, spring is right around the corner, I swear. Alright, let's get started. Hopefully I don't deform the chimney too much, but honestly, at the end of the day, I don't really care as long as it works. Alright, so might as well do this on. Switch it over. This is tighter than it can. I don't know how well it works. It seems like a lot of copper. Alright, it's not terrible. Alright, that was a workout and a half. It seems to be staying on fairly well. We'll see how that works. I now realize that this adapter is for PEX, not copper. I just read the label wrong. Do I absolutely need one here? No. I just need the one here that goes to my 5-gallon bucket as my reservoir, and then the tap on there can also control the flow. The upside, or I guess I can try it both ways, because either I keep this full of sap in direct contact with the stovepipe, and then the tap at the top of the 5-gallon pail here is only an on-off switch, or I don't control the flow here. This is fairly empty, and then only my little drip empties through here, and then just a small amount of sap goes through here. So I'll see which one's more efficient. Maybe keeping this full of sap being preheated is more efficient, or maybe just running the exact amount that I need in the pan at a time is more efficient, because there'll be more heat to transfer to a smaller volume. So I don't know. Both make sense in my mind. I feel that having a tap here though is easier to control, but trial and error, and we'll see what works best. I'll keep cutting and bringing it back further down, because the last part is on the sides, is I'm gonna bend it to act as a support for the pan for now. So I won't have to weld anything. There'll be a couple of holes where the smoke can escape, but I'm not too worried about that. It should work out just fine. I just want to make sure it's equal. I don't want to overcut. Might do a couple cuts once in a while, double check, and go from there. I think what I'll do instead is I'll cut a bit more, and then I'll just keep a little lip for the pen to rest on. Because bending this, because of the waves and the patterns in it, it's going to be a pain in the butt. Yeah. This is a thing of beauty. It's turning out even better than I was expecting. I just gotta throw the chimney on. I'll probably end up drilling some holes and putting some screws in, because it is on the heavier side. We will do a first boil in here with just water. You want to try to avoid using soap with your equipment for maple syrup, because the taste of soap will stay behind, and unpleasant for the syrup, obviously. There is a tiny gap all around. I'm not sure yet if I'll use high heat caulk that you can use for stoves, that you can use for wood stoves. We'll see how much fire, smoke escapes, but so far so good. I could always use some fireproof rope that you put inside a wood stove sometimes as a gasket of sort. All right, let's do this. Perfect. Hole is cut. step before we do the burn, I want to install the chimney. It's a bit heavier. I've tried it with just a regular HVAC 6-inch pipe. It works just fine without being drilled in place, but because this is heavier, it's got the copper tube around it. There will be some stuff hooked up to it. I don't want it to move, so I'll drill some holes in the cast iron and drive some screws. Maybe that means the flue won't operate as well, but there is a cap on top of this chimney, so I don't really mind. Nothing will fall into the barrel, and it should work just fine. All right, let's see if we can drill into this cast iron and see what comes of it. I gotta say, I really like this 12-volt series by Milwaukee. And then the cap goes on top. This one sits nice and tight, so I don't see a need to secure it with screws. And if I have to, I can easily remove it. In my box, I've got new tree taps. There's a couple broke last year, and I want to expand, so these go in the tree. I also have a food grade bucket that's transparent, so you can see how much is in here. Alright, so here is what I'm aiming for. So this, whoa. Why is this so small? Is this not ½ inch? Maybe I didn't buy a ½ inch. What size is this? It was more like 3/8 and ½ inch. No, it says ½ inch. So the goal is to solder this on. Solder this on here. And then have this on here. Like so. This would drip in the pan. And this part is here. This would connect to this. I'm going to make a hole in the bucket, and then this goes through the wall. So I have this sticking out of the bucket. So this end would connect to this here. This end would connect to here. So this is the bucket. Bucket feeds the loop. Loop goes around, and then this controls my drip. This is full of sap. Gets heated by the stove pipe as the fire is burning. So it's a double in one. So hopefully what comes out of here is somewhat warm. And then I don't lose my rolling boil. This keeps boiling. My sap keeps refilling. So I don't have to manually put stuff in all the time. Because last year, every time I had to put sap into my turkey fryer, I would lose my boil. So I need more energy to come back to a boil. It would take a lot of time, not as efficient. So we'll see what happens here, but I gotta run to the hardware store because this connection here is not working for me right now. I just went through my box of plumbing, and I have some ½ inch copper pipe that I kept when I took down the old system. And as you can see, this fits just perfectly here, but also this kind of fits fairly snug here, so I'm pretty sure I could solder this on as an adapter and then put this on, considering that this won't hold any pressure whatsoever because it'll be an open system. If the thing wants to expand and push back up, it's going to have the bucket as expansion room. So let's cut a piece out, solder it on, and see if I can make this fit and do the same for that adapter here. Full disclosure, I am not a great welder. my flux. Well, I'll let that one cool down. I'll work on the bottom one, and we'll load the system and see if it's somewhat watertight. Hopefully it is. So after a lot of finagling, finally got the bucket there with the hose adapter connected. That comes down to the top of the coil with the ugly solder job, but it works. Comes in the coil and it drips down in the pan. And then got the fire going in here. As we can see, not a lot of smoke coming out of there. Most of it is coming out of the chimney. So let that go, get the water boiling, and see what it looks like. You can see the water that's coming out of the copper pipe is quite hot. Might have to do some adjustment because you can hear it boiling. You can see here we've sprung a leak. So there will definitely be some adjustments to be made. Well, at this point, I'm going to say job well done. The evaporator works. There is still some fine tuning with the copper pipe. You could hear that the water was boiling, and eventually the water came back all the way to the bucket, and it started to bubble in the bucket. So that's not what I want. That's way too hot for what I just want it to be pre-warmed before I get there. So I'm not sure if I'll maybe take the copper pipe further away from the chimney, lift it higher so it's not as hot. I'm not sure yet, but the pan works beautifully. Start the fire in there. There is a tiny gap around the pan, but the flue effect, once it's nice and warm, is doing its job. So the gases are being shot up the chimney, so there's nothing really smoking inside of the garage. So it can stay in this position and warm up part of the garage as I am working and boiling at the same time. Maybe I'll abandon the copper pipe idea for this year. I'm not sure yet. Not that it was a sizable investment, but it was still on the more expensive side. So I'd like to get this working. Obviously the adapter with soldering, it seems like it's not true 1/2-inch pipe versus the regular 1/2-inch pipe. This is the soft copper versus the actual copper that you usually use to do some plumbing. I think it's mostly used in like refrigeration and stuff like that. So maybe it was getting too hot. I'm not sure. I'll do some more research. For now, I'll probably just not use a coil to preheat everything. I'll just find a way to have a bit of sap dripping inside of the pan slowly but surely. Probably just use the bucket, same method, and I'll have a little stand holding the hose and then just slowly drop a little bit of cold sap. Not too much so I don't kill my boil, but enough that I can replenish the sap inside of the pan without having to babysit it all the time. Now that this is working, I can go and tap the maple trees. I did not want to start collecting sap without knowing that I could boil it. I once again do not want to use propane this year. Last year I used a turkey fryer and the pot maybe had this much surface area at the bottom. It was quite a tall pot. It took a while to get it boiling. It was very easy to kill that rolling boil. While now I have a much larger surface area with the fire underneath it, and I am using wood, so a lot less expensive to heat up. So the goal overall this year is Higher capacity, less time to achieve the same amount of maple syrup. Last year I ended up producing about 20 liters of maple syrup. This year we'll see what happens. I want to go with 50 trees, see how this evaporator works. Still got some stuff to figure out with the copper pipe and the coil, but at least the pen itself works and I can boil some sap and get started. I'll of course update you guys once this evaporator has its maiden voyage, when we start boiling sap for the first time. Right now it's just water to make sure that everything's okay. It's also cleaning the pan at the same time. Once again, you don't want to use soap as much as possible when dealing with maple syrup because the taste can stay behind and will get into your maple syrup. So just really hot water. This thing basically is going to boil for hours and hours, so there's not any bacteria that's going to stay alive in that environment, so I'm not too worried about that. And anyways, it gets filtered before I bring it inside to finish it on the electric stove in the kitchen. I will also extend this nipple here so that the handle is not as close to the barrel so it doesn't overheat. It got quite warm, not crazy warm, but I'll extend it so it goes further and then put it 90 degrees so I can more easily empty it into another container when I'm ready to filter it, or directly in the filter. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I have more maple syrup content coming soon. Tapping the trees, I'll share what little knowledge I have so far. My father-in-law and brother-in-law are running a commercial sugar shack where they have a massive evaporator, so they're a lot more knowledgeable when it comes to that. But it always tastes better when you do it yourself. I'm doing some deep down studying into a permaculture orchard, checking out a bunch of information, reading, watching videos to try and get set up so that this spring / early summer I can get started with the orchard. A lot of stuff just right around the corner. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.